Hello friends, good morning. Welcome back again to Lovely Linux videos. Last week we have seen some interesting Linux distributions, Ubuntu and Garuda Linux, right? So one is from the Debian flavor, another one is from the Arch Linux family. This week I brought you something interesting which also belong to a Debian flavor, a parallel release alongside Ubuntu. Of course, it possesses all the great characteristics of a typical Debian Linux. Apart from that, some special customizations applied over it. This is one of the most famous and mostly downloaded. That is, a large number of people are using this Linux variant. Okay, I'm going to show you something today. So this will list out a varieties of Linux distributions. There is something called Distro Watch. So this is a website which keeps a tab and monitors across the varieties of Linux distributions. So whenever a new distribution got released, here it will be published the details and what type of operating system and what type of distribution it is. Those small highlights about the distribution released will be listed here in the home page. So it contains varieties of distributions. It has news. So every anything happens in a distribution, whether it got discontinued or a new distribution released or this feature snapshots, everything is being published in this particular website, which is distrowatch.com. This site contains complete details about all the Linux variants, Linux distributions. Here, a nice screen which shows you the page hit ranking. Can you see here? This distro watch monitors the varieties of distributions and identifies the hits per day across every distribution. So for the last 6 months, MX Linux is in the first place with 3,396 hits per day. So it's keep on monitoring and keeps on updates the popularity or the trends in which the distributions are interested for the general public. That's how it is. You can check for varieties of times. So from the year 2002, they used to have whole set of timelines in which you can filter the popularity of the distribution. Okay, one such distribution which achieves the first place in terms of hits per day is MX Linux. So we are going to see in much more detail about this particular flavor or this particular distribution under the flavor Debian. Right. So let's get started. Let us visit mxlinux.org. This is the official website of MX Linux. This is the home. So they offer three varieties of downloads. One is through Xfce, which is a flagship, that is their own home built desktop environment for MX Linux. KDE, which is one of the most popular desktop environments for any Linux variant. You can take it, use it in your variants. Fluxbox is a lightweight distribution. You can use it in lighter devices. If your machine is not good enough to execute heavy Linux or heavy Windows related stuff, you can choose this option called Fluxbox. It will help you in getting a lighter Linux for your machine. Okay, so since Xfce is going to be the flagship release, we are very much interested with this now. Download link is already there. Here you have a short notes about MX Linux. What is it? And also, I'm not going to explain this. You just yourself go and check what's it all about. Right. So I'm going to click the download button. It takes me to the release screen. Here there are download releases. Earlier In Garuda Linux, I said it was a rolling distribution so that we don't have any particular roadmap or any particular deadlines to get a release. So whenever a release is there, whenever a patch is there, it will be applied and you can update your distribution. Whereas in Ubuntu, it is twice a year update. So, I mean release. So every year in the month of April and in the month of October, Ubuntu team releases their operating system. Here, similarly, this is the release cycle of MX Linux. Every year once they used to release the operating system. So this release is for 2019. So far in 2020 we have not found anything, but as of now in MX Linux the latest and the last release was in the year 2019. Point 3. So this is the kernel update they provided from their end. So this is the third revision in the year of 2019, which is the current and the greater and most stable release from MX Linux. So this is how the naming, this is how the versioning system happening in MX Linux, right? So they have some varieties of ISOs. We can find it Xfce is also there, KDE is also there. So we are going to consider only Xfce for this, right? How to obtain MX? They have varieties of options. Direct repository. You can directly go and download it, or using torrent. If you have a torrent client installed in your machine, you can use the same, right? Then you can use live USB and all, default username, password. These are all the general things given for any distribution. Now let us open the direct repo. So you can download here, or you can go to the final folder. MX193 X64. So this option you can click. So this is the maximum downloader as well. So you can click and download this. So the download should be triggered automatically. Yeah, so you can save and proceed further. Since I have already downloaded, I am not going to proceed with the download option now. So you can go ahead and then download the operating system installer image. So I am now cancelling the download, closing the screens. Okay, so considering the fact that I have downloaded the installer image, what next I need to do? As usual, we need to start VirtualBox. So we are going to allocate a separate virtual machine for MX Linux and install it on that. So in order to use VirtualBox, where to get it, how to install, and the basic concepts of VirtualBox, I am giving the I link above. Please check it for your reference. Okay, so now we are going to create a virtual machine for our MX Linux. Okay, new. So we are going to install MX Linux. So as you type, it understood the name, it is a Linux. That's good. But the variety of Linux we are going to use is Debian 64-bit. Next. So I am interested with providing half of my RAM. I already have 16 gigs. I am providing 8 gigs of RAM. Hard disk 8 GB I think is pretty much enough. Creating a VirtualBox disk image, a dynamically allocated disk image, 8 gigs. This is the virtual machine I am creating. Yeah. So now the virtual machine is done. I am going to install MX Linux inside the virtual machine. For that, I am going to start the virtual machine in a normal start. So while starting up, it asks for the boot image. I am clicking the choose icon, add the boot image MX193 X64. Open. Yeah, so this is the one I am selecting and then start. So this starts the installation process of MX Linux inside the virtual machine. So it has some varieties of things. Ignoring everything, I am going to choose the MX 19.3, which is released on November 11, 2020. So this is the installation process. So installation shield or the live variant usually might come up whenever you try to install Linux. So this is the live variant which is available for you. So this is a welcome screen as usual for any typical Linux. So this gives you a first look on MX Linux. Right. So we got the MX Linux live bootable desktop. We need to install in order to get a complete functional MX Linux in our virtual machine. So there is an installer available, so we can use the installer to get started. Let us right click the installer icon, execute. Yeah. So now the installer is started. Keyboard settings and all identified as US. I am just going with the default options. Next. So whether we are going to do rearrange disk partitions or use entire disk. So since we have created a dedicated virtual machine for MX Linux, I am using auto install using entire disk, which is 8 gigabytes of VBox. Next. OK to format and use the entire disk for MX Linux. Yes, of course. Now the formatting process is going on. So it creates partitions for the Linux or the Unix operating system. And if you want to install it alongside Windows, you need to install group. So group is nothing but a bootloader. It identifies separate operating systems and loads the master boot record with the user's choice. I want to keep group, no issues with this. So the installation process is in progress. Let us come back and check once the installation is completed. Stay tuned until then. Okay, so it is passing for it got passed for the operator input. Now I am proceeding further. So the computer names I am just providing nothing. So example.com, let it be there. Next, locale, configuring clock, Asia, check. Kolkata is the time. Yep. Next, default user account, the same configuration we used to have in all the operating systems. Same administrator password as well. Okay, so that's about it. I don't want auto login or show password. Next. Yeah, so the user changes are done. The installation is proceeding further. So it's installing the group as we discussed. So it is a bootloader. So whenever you have another operating system, that group can provide booting options for you. Yeah. So comparing to other installation shields, the MX Linux installer is a bit different. The installation got started, but wherever they need the user input, like setting the time zone, and the users and the computer details and all, so it awaits for the user to input and then it proceeds after that. So it's a bit different, but not totally new. So it's almost 98% Linux installation is completed. Now the group is installing. So you can check the live log here, what's happening as a part of the installation. It shows everything. This is the help. Next to help, there is a tab for live log. You can check what's happening. Yeah, 100%. Now it's cleaning up. Done. Yeah, so it unmounted everything. MX Linux installed. Now automatically reboot the system when the installer is closed. Yes, finish. So we are done with this and then going to start reboot. Please remove the disk, close the tray and press enter to continue. It's okay. I am hitting enter. I need to remove the disk image. Yes, and now my MX Linux is, this is the group which we discussed earlier. It's showing MX Linux. It wants to boot MX Linux 19.3. Yes, select this. Now my virtual box MX Linux is booting up. So this is the bootloader. Booting is in progress now. This is the first time boot. So it's doing lot of checkings, lot of services, everything is getting initialized and the OS is up. Yeah, so it's asking for my password, login. So the MX Linux desktop is that. So this is MX Linux for you. So I have all the basic stuffs needed for the operating system. So when comparing to Ubuntu, the installation process is pretty fast here, but it is more like Ubuntu. It is a parallel release of Debian, right? So already Ubuntu is from Debian. MX Linux is also a Debian release. But the difference is Ubuntu has enormous community support. Of course, MX Linux is also having a great community, but when comparing to Ubuntu, it may not be up to that mark in terms of community support. But this is an excellent operating system. That's why the reason in Distro Watch it's in the top seed for hits per day. Right, so this is the welcome screen as usual in any operating system. Once you installed, this will be showing the key things. Right, close. So they have some manuals and frequently asked questions in the desktop. A nice timing and the memory details is available. So it is an interesting thing in MX Linux. You can see the memory usage in the desktop wallpaper itself. So hard disk, how much hard disk is there available, how much memory is available, and how much CPU. I mean, these are all the usage statistics. Sorry. So these are all the usage. And so typically you have Firefox, and this is the file manager. Like in KDE, we used to have Dolphin, right? Similar to this, it is a native file manager for Xfce, which is the flagship desktop for MX Linux. So normal file system, Unix file system. As I said, you have varieties of folders. So the root for everything is slash. So under slash, you have all the Linux folders through which you can navigate. So this is the user folder. Inside the user, I have Embosoft and my own files, right? This is the file manager, system sounds, and this is update manager. If you click it, you will get MX updater. So this will upgrade the packages for you. So whenever some new patches available or after your installation is completed, it will check with the MX Linux repositories and check for the updates. If you click upgrade, all the packages will be updated and your operating system will be up to date. Yeah, so these are all the simple patching system. And file system, whenever you mount and unmount, you can use. So computer, there is an option called computer. Let's see what it does. And you have network connections and other more details. Yep. So this is a nice distribution. It has varieties of things. Yeah. So it is similar to the Windows run command. Here you call something called MX package installer. So you should be a root or an administrator to use package installer. So it shows popular packages through which you can install the softwares of your choice. Let us check Skype. If you are interested with Skype, click it, install, boom, done. So you are done with installing Skype like this. So varieties of softwares packages are available in the MX Linux repository. So you can check it based on the categories and install the software of your choice. Since it's a Debian, so all the packages which are supporting the Debian are available for you. So all the repositories, all the package details, versions, everything is listed there. Just to feel free to go through and check what are all the things every screen says. But the important screen for you of your interest is the popular applications through which you can install. Just fiddle around and play with this. This is very much important. Yep. So this is Task Manager, which you are already familiar in Windows, which runs the processes and shows the memory details and all, which is very much familiar for you. So you can click, right click, you can terminate or anything you can do for this process. Some interesting things are readily available, no need to install separately. LibreOffice is there, you can use Office. Xfce Terminal. So this is the terminal screen you use. So dollar prompt for regular users. So you can type your Linux commands in the terminal. It is a nice looking terminal, a typical Linux terminal. So comparing to Garuda, it is a bit different. Garuda has a lambda prompt. Here it is dollar prompt for normal users. Yeah. So this is the terminal, and configuration tools are also available for MX. So you have a variety of things. So these are all system-wide configuration tools, daytime, sound settings, brightness, lot more things are there. You can just go through all the features which are available there. And what else? Office is there. Yeah, so almost very basic things. What are all the things you need? You can just check the categories. So some inbuilt games, some graphical applications, GNU. So GIMP is there. And yeah, so a lot more tools are also available apart from the conventional things. So which is of definitely of your interest. So for notes and all in accessories, they have tools to write your notes. So it is very good for you. It will be handy for you to take the things. Yeah, nice. So there is an MC editor. So this is an editor you can use. It is a famous editor of those times. So Midnight Commander in older days. This is one of the most popular and most powerful editors of all time. So many operating systems disown those editor nowadays, but I'm not sure why in MX Linux they still keep that Midnight Command editor. It's interesting. Yeah, gporter, it's a partition manager. So a lot of things are coming with MX Linux. So you just feel free and go through everything one by one or on up to your interest. So this is pretty much fast. The operating system is very good and stable, and it is also keep on updated by the community whenever a new version is released. It is a patch, and new releases are given every time once in a year. Preferably in December they used to give a new release. So this is how MX Linux is being organized. Absolutely, it's a an excellent distribution. So mostly the Linux flavors or the operating system you use will go with your emotions or with your interest, with your favorites. Of course, my heart is sticked with Garuda Linux, but MX Linux is nowhere comparatively inferior to that Garuda Linux. So since it is a different flavor from Debian, but it is an excellent operating system to work with. Okay, friends, thank you very much. Take care, stay safe, and explore the Linux space whenever you have a time. Goodbye.